Well, did you hear about the paranoid dyslexic? The paranoid dyslexic? He always thought he was following someone. And also, you've probably all heard about the dyslexic agnostic. Stayed up all night wondering if there really was a dog. And finally, did you ever hear about the dyslexic devil worshiper? He sold his soul to Santa. The trick to those jokes, of course, is that you have to think about turning it around. But what's the reversal here? Because it always involves a reversal, getting things a little reversed. So it seemed maybe a good way of getting into a topic this morning about gratefulness, about gratitude. Because I think we often are mistaken in our minds about gratitude and have it a little reversed. That we are going to be grateful when something happens to make us so. When circumstances present themselves in a certain way, then we'll be grateful. Then we'll have gratitude in our hearts. But of course, that's not really how it works. That's a reversal. It's the other way around. We're grateful. We have gratitude in our hearts. And then blessings unfold. And then blessings unfold. It's a deep lesson to learn, and it's a powerful one. I was reading an interview. One of my favorite sites to visit is Brother David Steindl-Rast, gratefulness.org. I don't know whether you've ever been to gratefulness.org. But it's a compilation of all kinds of stories and news and things having to do with gratefulness, grateful living. And I found an interview on there that I found very rich with ideas to reflect on with an author by the name of Seth Godin. And it was about gratitude. Gratitude as a profound choice. A profound choice. The choice to be grateful is something we can choose. The choice to be grateful has a tremendous impact on the quality of our lives. People who are grateful are happier, work better, find life easier than people who are not grateful. And the interesting and surprising fact about it that we often overlook, is that circumstances have almost very little to do with it. People in the very same kind of life situations and life circumstances one person be very grateful and one person not at all grateful. In fact, sort of entitled and resentful. Same job. A teacher showing up in a classroom every morning, one could think, I have to get up, at 6 in the morning and go to church and go to school and teach a room full of out-of-control kids. Another teacher, same school, similar classroom, can think, I get to go to church, get up at 6 and go to school tomorrow morning and enjoy a whole classroom full of fun, interesting, crazy kids. Same job, same circumstances, entirely different posture toward it. It's about have to or get to. And it's a really interesting thing to reflect on, because I think all of us get in and out of those different modes, don't we? Sometimes we're feeling more have to. I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to, And sometimes we're feeling, I get to do this, I get to do that. It's a totally different posture, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with the circumstances in our lives at all. Get to is the attitude of gratitude. Getting to do something means you've got a sense of gratitude for it. You're aware of blessings in it. Have to is more the attitude of entitlement, which is sort of a curse of the privileged. People in relatively affluent countries have the luxury of becoming entitled, have this feeling of entitled. I'm entitled to everything. Everything should go well for me. I'm entitled to all these blessings. And if they don't go quite right for me, I'm annoyed. Anyone ever feel that way? I think we do. I think it comes and goes, this have to, get to thing. It's a mindset we can get into. And it's, I think, important to reflect on that idea. It's being a profound choice. We can choose get to. We can choose a posture of gratefulness, regardless of the circumstances of our lives, and experience the great benefits of greater happiness, greater peace, finding life easier, dealing with challenges better, all those kind of blessings. We can choose it, and we can be intentional about it, and we will reap rich benefits. There was a study recently at a major university on how gratitude impacts mental health. It's a study of 300 adults, mostly college students, who were seeking counseling at the University Medical Center. Most were dealing with anxiety or depression, or both. Now, they were recruited for the study just before beginning counseling, and most of them reported critically low levels of mental health. That was their estimation of their own mental health at the time. So this is how the study went. They assigned the study participants into 3 groups. They were all going to receive counseling service. The first group was also instructed to write a letter of gratitude to another person each week for 3 weeks. Write a letter of gratitude each week for 3 weeks. The second group was asked to write about their deepest thoughts and feelings about the negative experiences they've had. And the third group didn't do any writing at all. And they all got counseling. The findings were those who wrote gratitude letters each week for 3 weeks reported significantly better mental health 4 weeks after the study and again 12 weeks after the exercise ended. Important findings. Much better mental health than the other 2 groups. So some other important findings from that study. It said that the gratitude didn't have to be shared to be beneficial. They were told they didn't have to send those letters, just write them. And in fact, only about 23%, 1 in 4, actually sent the letters. They just wrote them. So they don't have to be shared. You just have to feel it internally. They found that it was the relief from the negative emotions that was the key, not a floweriness of positive emotions, but the release of negative emotions that was the key to the results. And the third one, and this is an area that really need a lot more research in, but they did MRIs that revealed changes in the brain, that there was actually an effect on the brain of that gratitude practice. In that group, there was an evidence that the prefrontal cortex area for learning and decision-making showed stronger neural activity than it had beforehand. So gratitude practice rewires us a little bit, enhances our ability to think creatively, to learn, to make decisions better. That resonates with me, with my experience. I think when we're in a mode of have to, and everything feels like misery or drudgery, and we're in that kind of place, are we doing our best thinking and creative imagining and decision making? I don't think I have been when I've been in times like that. Everything kind of shuts down. So it's clearly good for us. Gratitude practice rewires our brains a little bit, makes us happier, makes things easier. It doesn't have to do necessarily with any changing of circumstances. It's an inside job. Perhaps the benefits of it is the reason why it's emphasized in pretty much all spiritual traditions. Jesus demonstrated gratitude in all the gospel accounts. There are stories of how he thanked God first. It was a part of all his teaching and healing. God, thank you for having heard me. I know that you hear me always, before leading Lazarus from the tomb. Thank you, God, before he distributed the fish and the loaves to the 5,000, the gospel accounts. Gratitude was a part of everything he did, and it opened the floodgates. Here's the best teaching ever, the kind of substantial teaching from Paul, and this is from Thessalonians, 1 Thessalonians 5:18. He's writing to followers of the teachings of Jesus that was just called the Way at that time. It wasn't even called Christianity. Followers of the Way in the little towns he was visiting as he spread these teachings going around. In his letter to them, he said, "Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God." Give thanks in all circumstances. King James Version that I grew up on said, "In everything give thanks. In everything give thanks." That's a powerful teaching. Powerful teaching. How do we get to that? How do we get to? How do we get to that state, that posture of gratefulness, where we are looking for blessings in our lives and not facing obligations and approaching things from that posture? Here were some of the ideas that started coming to light for me. And it really starts with the idea that gratitude is a choice, and it's something we can do at any time. First thing is, I think we have to work with our tendency to judge. Jesus taught it constantly, do not judge. Drop the judgment. We all have narratives in our heads going on each day, I think. Just driving around town, bumping into people, checkout lines, or whatever we're doing in our day-to-day activities, there's often judgments coming in and out of our minds. So instead of kind of being alert for blessings of the moment, we're thinking about what everybody else is doing wrong. Have you ever been there? Why is that lunatic driving like that? And there's even a kind of a wanting to teach them a lesson and advise other people about how their behavior needs to be changed and so on, because we're in this narrative in our heads about judgment. That'll take us right out of that posture of gratefulness. To the extent that we're in that mode and caught up in judgment, it's cut off from us, that ability to feel grateful. And it's really a nice thing to release if we can get there, that we're really not in charge of passing judgment. It's really, we don't have to carry that weight, carry that burden of evaluating and analyzing and deciding how everything should go and how everybody should act. And it's sort of a waste of our energy and time. And we can change the narrative. We can change that narrative and make the narrative more of a choice for gratitude. Seth Godin in his article said, the second one, after drop the judgment, is act as if. It's an old one. Remember ever hearing fake it till you make it? It's act as if is another way of saying that. There's been research going on about this too, that like the gratitude letters, our brains, our hormones change just by how we act. If you put on a sad face and start thinking something miserable, something that makes you unhappy, and you just kind of put that on, you will change a rush of hormones in your body. I mean, they monitor this. Same thing as if you put on a smile and you make a decision to smile at someone, it releases different hormones and it rewires neural networks. Acting as if has impact. It really does, and it's not as difficult as we think it is. Third one is about practicing intentional gratitude. Practice intentional gratitude. Can we give thanks in everything? That's an interesting one to think about. And my sense is we can practice this skill, and many of us probably already are practicing it, and we can expand our capacity for gratefulness. We can challenge ourselves to be grateful even in situations that might typically annoy or irritate us or even be painful or challenging. We can expand our capacity to be grateful. Have you ever known people who seem to be able to be grateful in all kinds of circumstances? I have, and I've been inspired by people able to do that. It doesn't mean the challenge isn't still there, but it makes the challenge easier to deal with if we can have some gratefulness in our hearts for something in the situation. It's a profound choice. That's the main thing to remember. And choice by choice, we can improve our quality of life. We can become happier, more peaceful, make our lives easier, regardless of present circumstances. That's the key thing. So, let's look at some ones we might find difficult. How about financial challenges? How about too many bills? Not enough coming in to cover bills. I had a wonderful instructor in that in my mother. She did. She found unity very early on, and my family had a lot of financial challenges growing up. A lot of issues, and she started doing hair and opened a beauty shop and was successful in business, but there were a lot of hard years in it. She built first she did hair in the basement, and then she built a little shop on the back of the house, and then she bought a house in a small town we grew up in, the uptown area. She prospered, but she kind of did her focusing work on that, because I remember very distinctly as a child, stack of bills, and she'd make them all out. She knew she didn't have enough in the bank to cover them, but she'd make them all out. She'd put them on the piano in a certain place, and she would say, "Look how blessed I am that all these creditors trust me." That's a good attitude. That's a good attitude. How blessed I am. All these creditors know I'm good for it. Funds aren't there right now, but they trust me, and I've established that. That's my record. People know I can be trusted. My business can be trusted. And the bills always got out. It always worked out somehow. How blessed I am that I can handle this level of debt. Different take on that, but one that's more empowering, right? One that makes things easier. It could have easily taken the posture of, oh my God, I'm broke. How will I ever cover these? It's impossible. Look how much they are. Ever been there? You know, it's really easy to take that posture of how difficult things look, how impossible. And but it's a skill we can learn to flip the lens on that a little bit, turn the lens and go, well, you know, it really is a testament to how trustworthy I am and the growth of my business that, you know, I do have all, you know, I'm going to be able to make all these bills, just not this minute. That was a good model for me. Financial challenges, there are different ways we can face them. Have to or get to, gratefulness or entitlement and worry and anxiety. Seth Godin was talking about, somebody challenged him and said, well, what about in times of sickness? What about somebody going through chemotherapy? How can you be grateful then? And he said, easy. In most of the world, chemotherapy is not an option. And I hadn't thought about it that way. It's not an option in a lot of the world. There aren't any healthcare options. We send monetary gifts, donations sometimes to a group called the Mercy Hospital, the Mercy Hospital Ships. Some of you might be familiar with them. It's a wonderful organization. And they just travel constantly. It's a hospital ship. I think they may have 2 or 3, I'm not sure. But they go around the coast of Africa often, where there is no medical care. And the children and people are just becoming disfigured and dying of injuries that would easily be treatable here. There's simply no resources anywhere near those people. And the ship arrives and people are lined up, for a mile. They've walked miles to be there, to have tumors removed, facial tumors, to have maimed legs reshaped, to have all kinds of life-changing surgeries. So sometimes some of the things we feel how miserable that we have to have this surgery or that surgery, we have to go through chemo or one thing or another, we forget in our entitlement, we forget how blessed we are to even have the option. Even have the option. We can be grateful even in times of sickness and surgery. How about when we fail at things and we have unsuccessful attempts at things? Seth Godin was talking about having gotten 800 book proposals rejected before his first book was published. I really admire the determination of that. 800? Whew! I think a lot of people would have kind of stopped writing, kind of given it up. So how could that be a blessing? And he said, what I learned was I was not very good at telling my story. And I learned to tell it better. I would not be half the writer I am today if I hadn't had all those book proposals rejected. So we are strengthened and guided by rejections and first failures at attempts at things. I think so. That's how we kind of learn. I've learned from mistakes. I've learned from approaches that didn't work, haven't you? So we can be grateful for mistakes and the guidance that comes through them. How about being grateful for lousy service? I think we get that one a lot, don't we? Do you get a lot of lousy service? I think we do. This author, Godin, was talking about that, and he was mentioning a story I'd never heard before. He was a New York City writer, and he said he lived 14 miles from Ground Zero. And he said there was a cafe about 5 miles from there, near the train station. And for a long time, there was a handwritten letter up on the bulletin board in this cafe that was near that area. This is the text of the letter that was posted for a long time there. It said, I was here a few weeks ago and ordered a decaf coffee with bagel and butter. The idiot behind the counter gave me regular coffee and put cream cheese on my bagel. As a result, I got frustrated, and as a result, he had to make it again. And as a result, I was kicking and screaming, and as a result, I missed my train. And because I missed my train, I got to the World Trade Center 30 minutes after the plane crashed into it, and I am alive today. Thank you to the person who messed up my coffee order. That's quite a story. And I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happened to other people too. Missed connections, things going wrong at home before you even got out the door. This is the nuisances of our daily lives, and sometimes nuisances help us. But Seth Godin made a good point when he was talking about that incident. He said, but what if it had nothing to do with this, sort of cosmic coincidence of the awful thing that happened that day? What if the guy had just said thank you anyway? Because, we forget how incredibly blessed we are that we can go into a Starbucks or whatever all over the place, and somebody will take, coffee beans that were grown somewhere in South America or Africa and grind them up for us at a special roaster, and bring them to us and mix that with purified water and make a latte or whatever else, a half-calf, decaf, latte with, whipped cream or whatever, all our fancy coffee concoctions, and we can go up to the counter and order it, get it for a couple of bucks and take it with us on our way to work. That's quite a privilege to enjoy in our culture, one we take for granted. So what if he just, every once in a while that coffee order might go wrong, But what if the guy had kind of realized that and said thank you anyway? Still would have missed his train, but his attitude wouldn't have gone, crazy. He could have just thought, things go wrong a little bit sometimes. I'd rather have this. Would you mind running that through again? Thanks so much. And not let it shift us into this irritation about our, desires not being met in fullness, that entitlement attitude. We forget so many of the blessings we enjoy are really extraordinary privileges if we look at them from the right angle. How about in times of loss or bereavement? Can we be grateful then? Somebody we love is dying? I think we can. I interviewed a man years ago, Ed Cotter was his name, I still remember him quite vividly. I was doing some writing for Columbus Monthly magazine at the time, and hospice programs were new. And I was curious about them, and curious about what I had missed, because we hadn't had it when my parents went. And I interviewed, we had 3 programs in town at the time, and I interviewed folks at those programs, and one of them made a line of an interview for me with this lovely man whose wife had died several months before in the hospice. He'd been caring for her at home, and he became a bereavement volunteer with hospice. But he told me about, in detail, he just loved telling me all about her and all about those last months when he was caring for her, and the additional help he brought in when it was needed, the time they spent together. I remember specifically he talked about these tulips they ordered from Holland for the backyard, like 100 tulip bulbs in different colors, and they were so looking forward to seeing them in the spring. And they'd look out every day, and she said, I don't know whether I'm going to make it to see those tulips. And yeah, you are. And they did. And she saw all those amazing tulip colors out in the yard, and they enjoyed moments like that so richly. I was so struck by that as a young person in my early 20s. I was sort of blown away when he said, my marriage peaked during that time. Marriage peaked during that time. They had a gratefulness for every detail of their lives they might not have had otherwise. Gratefulness in times of loss, in times of challenge. Here's one even more powerful. I'll kind of end with this one I read recently about, there's a woman wrote this article about her, it was a second cousin, a 95-year-old second cousin named Nunya, which I guess is another form for Naomi. And Nunya, now 95, she had gone through the concentration camps. Between the ages of 19 and 24, she was in 3 different concentration camps. And the last one was at Auschwitz, and near the end of the war. And she and all the other women in her area where she was housed, it was like a huge bunkhouse where like 1,000 women stayed. They were really expecting to be killed at any time. They were terrified every day, probably starving, an atmosphere of terrible animosity and terror. But every night, these 4 friends, she, Nunya, and 3 friends, I don't know how they did that, just came up with the idea, but every night they told each other one thing that happened that day at Auschwitz for which they were grateful. one thing every day for which they were grateful. And they all survived the camp. And they all had lives of gratefulness like Nunia did. And all four said that evening practice kept them alive. Kept them alive. In all kinds of circumstances, all kinds of situations, if we can make that profound choice, we can shift our minds from misery, from have to, obligation, what's wrong, what other people are doing wrong. From that kind of narrative, we can shift it to the narrative, I get to do this, I get to do that. And look at the blessings in my life right now. I have so much to give thanks for. We can stretch our capacity for that. And we can reap the rich benefits of being able to do that, choice by choice. Choice by choice. So a wonderful way, I think, to kind of end this, wrap this idea up is just with a little prayerful thought about it. Right here, right now, I am grateful for the blessings in my life. Could we say that together? Right here, right now, I am grateful for the blessings in my life. Let's take that into prayer for a moment and feel that deeply within. Right here, right now, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the challenges, regardless of the needs, I am aware of how richly blessed I am. You are aware of how richly blessed you are. Family, friends, health, the beauty of nature all around us, the fullness of life demonstrating all around us, the abundance showing itself all around us in our lives, everywhere. That presence and power we feel within us that is available to us and responsive to us, ready to steady and strengthen us and guide us in the path of life. How grateful we are in this very moment for the blessings of our lives. And so it is. Amen.